Well, in the interest of being on time, that's not what I was trying to say, but in the interest of getting started, we'll get started. So, welcome to Black Friday University. This is a free series that we put on here at Bold Commerce where we give you tips and tricks and kind of advice on how you can run a successful Black Friday campaign. Black Friday is in less than 3 weeks. I think the timer said 17 days from today, which is pretty nuts.
It's coming up fast.
Yeah, it's definitely the Super Bowl of the year for the e-commerce world. Stores see huge amounts of lifts. Shopify sees, I think, 4 times the traffic it normally does on a day in November on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So definitely something you want to be prepared for. So I'm Aubrey Kotelko. Today I have with me Graham Matheson, is it? Okay. And he's going to talk to us and with us about getting a returns policy set for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Returns is kind of one of those areas that online stores really don't like to talk about. It seems like a cost center to a lot of people. So I have to accept returns from customers after I spent all this money shipping it to them and printing out a label and spent this time going to the post office for them and dropping off my packages. But returns, I think, is really an important aspect of having an online store that's trusted by consumers. And if we think of any kind of successful brick and mortar store, whether that's Walmart or Best Buy, Cabela's, for example, has a really good returns policy. They all accept returns very willingly because they know that it gives consumers confidence that if they make the wrong choice, they can come back to the store and the store will take care of them, basically, whether they're doing a return or an exchange. So if it's working for brick and mortar, we have to find a way to make it work for online sales, because if customers are increasingly wanting their online experience to be either as good or better than just going to the store, because there are downsides to ordering online. They have to wait a day or two to get their packages, or even longer. They can't touch or feel the product before they actually pay for it. They're not sure if what they're ordering is exactly what they want, again, because they can't see it. And then one of the big stickers, at least for me, when I was starting to order online a couple years ago, is, well, what happens if this breaks or is the wrong size or whatever, right? So customers really want that online shopping experience to be either better or at least equal to what they would get in a brick and mortar store. And so I think a returns policy is really, really important there.
Yeah, I mean, returns policies are just a basic foundation of great customer service in a lot of ways. And when you are trying to, improve and grow on your client base, having a good return policy is fundamental in kind of bringing back return customers. It takes the risk out of buying a little bit, and that ensures that if a customer comes through and they had a great experience returning a product for the first time, they shop at your store for the first time, they return the product, they have a great customer experience, they know that they can go back and take some of the risk out of purchasing from that store, and they know that they always will have a reliable customer service experience returning that product. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest element there is that it adds a layer of trust that I have to a store. So I want to be able to trust the people I'm buying from, and if a store is telling me, well, this is final sale, it's either take it or leave it, you can't bring it back if it turns out there's something wrong with it, that kind of makes me think in my head, well, wait a minute, why are they so adamant that this has to be out their door? Like, aren't they trying to make sure my problem is solved instead of just making money for themselves? So, just to kind of round back to your point, I definitely agree. Like, returns policies are an integral part of customer service, making sure not only that the policy is good and that it's there, because it isn't there for a lot of online stores, but also that it's that the actual process of doing those returns is really positive for customers, because if it isn't, they're not going to have a good experience, and they probably won't come back because they don't think that they can trust your store to be legitimate with returns. A lot of smaller online stores too are, again, I think, hesitant to offer returns because they think, well, that's just a ton of added cost for me, which might be true if kind of done in a way that isn't super efficient. But I would, to respond to that, just point to really successful online stores like Amazon or Best Buy or Cabela's again. All of these places offer returns in some way, shape, or form for their online businesses, and making sure that, well, not even making sure that, if those super successful companies are doing it, I think it's important to kind of take those lessons and apply them even to smaller businesses.
And where some of the smaller business can get caught up in something like that is knowing how much the larger businesses have capital, so it's a little bit easier and a little bit more manageable. There's less impact on their store from providing a very flexible return policy. But what you get in a lot of ways, specifically if you're very good at publicizing your return policy, you make it visible. It serves as almost a sales pitch in a lot of ways, because right away that there's an accessible return policy that clarifies any confusion that you might have, and like we said before, it takes some of the risk away from buying. So you already improve your chances by making that return policy visible, making it clear, trying to limit some of the fine print and that kind of thing. And so hopefully, if you are a smaller business and you are capable of visualizing that a lot better on your storefront, it will help you generate that customer and client base, because of the fact that they know they can see it right there, and hopefully your product is up to par and your shipping methods are good, so that you don't necessarily have to deal with it coming back too often.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talk about returns policies, and I think it's probably in a lot of people's heads that they're just just a customer service tool. And while I kind of agree with that, I agree with you too. I think they're a big sales tool as well. I think Walmart shoots for 96% of customers to not return products, and actually shoot for a 4% return policy. To rephrase that, 4% of their customers who buy things, Walmart shoots, or expects that they'll make a return. So 96% of them aren't making a return, and it's possible that the reason they're buying in the first place is because they know that return policy is there. So they might not ever need to use it, but it's kind of like an insurance policy. You want it to be there just in case something happens. So returns policies, I think, again, just to kind of conclude on this, super, super important for an online store. They really give customers trust in your business. They know that if you have a solid returns policy, they feel safer buying from you. It's, like I said, kind of insurance for them to make sure that their purchase is actually going to be a valuable one. So we'll talk about some reasons that returns happen. I think is maybe kind of a good thing to move on to. So returns happen for a number of different reasons. Returns happen because maybe a product is defective, or maybe there's an issue with the shipping. So either you shipped them the wrong product, or it was damaged in transit by the shipping carrier. Or I think one of the most common ones is the product isn't as described. So I know if you're selling on eBay, this is a super common one where a customer will buy a product and then they'll get it and it's not what they're looking for, and so they return it. And eBay will about 100% of the time, near to 100%, side with the customer on that side, because they say, well, the merchant is responsible for making sure that the customer understands exactly what they're buying. And that kind of encourages the merchant to make sure that they're fully describing what they're trying to sell, that it has really great product photography, that it has a very accurate description, that kind of specifications of the product, like maybe the material or the exact color of a shirt, are listed really well, so that the customer can see it and kind of get that in-store feel for it before they've actually touched it at all.
Right, and that makes obviously a large difference. One of the reasons why you shop online is to have kind of the convenience of being able to do it from home, do it mobily on your cell phone, that kind of thing. A lot of the online stores that we see are apparel or things that would be very important to have a hands-on approach to it. And as you're losing that, the product description becomes very important. Like you mentioned, some of the other reasons why products get returned, keeping tabs on that, keeping information and records on why those things came back can hopefully help you solve a long-term problem if you are seeing the same product come back over and over again because it wasn't described properly. Well, maybe that's something we can improve on our storefront. Maybe there's something else that we can do to really help clarify to the customer exactly what they're going to be getting when they don't have the ability to put it in their hands, put it on their body, try it out in the store, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think just on that point, so products that are defective, that's something that's somewhat in our control because we choose who our manufacturers are, and we are responsible for doing quality control and things like that. Shipping issues, somewhat in our control because we can choose to package things in a more secure way. whether that's adding additional padding to them or putting them in a larger box or even putting them in a smaller box just to make sure that the box fits whatever is shipping. I think the last item that we talked about, though, the product not being as described, is basically exclusively in control of the merchant. So I need to be able to, as we mentioned, with great product photos, a great description, a really high quality kind of specifications list if that's relevant to my product, make sure that I'm effectively communicating that to customers. And if I'm getting returns where that's not the case because they thought they were buying something and it turned out it was something else, that's a negative experience for the customer, but also it's a negative for me because I'm paying the return costs for that. So, they might charge back their credit card, they might just file it through my regular returns process. There's a whole bunch of different downsides to not having really accurate product descriptions, and it's super important in the essence, or in the idea of creating a kind of sustainable return policy, that those descriptions and those photos are really, really high quality.
Right, you're just trying to limit the amount of possibilities that there are for things to go wrong and for returns to be generated, really. With a product that was shipped improperly, if that continues to be a highly happening occurrence, as I barely get through that, you can change carriers, right? If you have the same carrier, if you keep having a problem with that carrier, you can change carriers. As you mentioned, the inaccurate descriptions or lack of descriptions, it's on you.
Yeah.
And so those things are in your control. And right away, that's a immediate point of impact to kind of limit your margin for error. These are something that is in your control. It makes a substantial difference, and it adds an element of transparency, which is very important to a customer.
Yeah, for sure. So just to recap, there are a lot of reasons that customers return products. I think we can both agree, and we've both touched on this here, that the descriptions of your products and the actual product pages themselves are probably the number one most important factor that we see when stores are kind of coming to us asking how can they reduce their return rates on products. If you're seeing really high return rates, you are probably going to want to take a look at your product descriptions, make sure that customers understand what they're purchasing, because that will really help to cut down on those. So if you don't have a returns policy yet, I think the next thing we'll touch on is some things to consider when you're writing one. So, again, a returns policy is, I think, becoming a fact of life for online stores. It's definitely a bit of an extra cost that some stores might be a little hesitant to take on, but it can be used as a really good sales tool, a really good customer service tool, and it just gives a great customer experience because they have that trust in the store. So what are some things that you can think of in a returns policy that are probably really important to include?
Well, obviously, the first thing is basically the timeline. How long after my point of purchase do I have to return this product? So it would depend a little bit on the products that you're selling to give a general time of use, so that they might actually be able to try it out and see what if it does work or if it does fit or anything like that. And you also have to calculate into that how long it's going to take to ship. So what's your audience? What's your demographic? What are the people that you're selling to? How far away are they, right? Are you shipping only locally? Maybe your return policy doesn't have to be as long because it doesn't take as much time to ship. Are you shipping internationally? Are you shipping overseas? You know what I mean? There's a lot to it that comes into it, but that timeline is important because it's the same element as some of the risk, right? There's less of a sense of urgency. You can analyze if you do or do not like the product. Obviously, if it shows up and it's damaged, odds are pretty good that it's just going to come right back. But if it wasn't as advertised or as described, there might be a little bit of leeway there that you have to kind of give the customer the opportunity to have that. Then another thing is the shipping. Obviously, shipping is a huge part of it. So you kind of have to decide when you're generating the reasons for your return, when you're kind of accepting reasons for your return, what is the cost that's going to go into this? Am I really responsible for something if I get something that I sent out that was the correct product that was ordered, but when they received it, they didn't like the product after all. They thought, you know what, I think I actually want the other one. Can I return this and exchange it for the other one? In that case, you might have to make sure that you're clarifying who's going to pay the shipping, because at that point, you might be able to justify the customer paying for the shipping in a scenario for certain returns. And that is a large cost for a lot of people. Restocking fees, right? How much is it going to cost to put this product back in my inventory? Is it even something I can put back into my inventory? Do I have to write this off as something that was just malfunctional and broken from the point that they received it? So those are some of the key elements, just kind of on a functional level, of generating your return policy. A great kind of process to go through is edit and re-edit kind of the actual wording, the visualization of your returns policy. We've talked in the past about service with a smile and things like that. It can be hard to kind of communicate on certain levels through text if you're working on an online store. So making sure that you take the time to address how you're writing your return policy, the language that you're using, what is it consistent with the kind of the feel of your store, and those kind of elements are important when generating a return policy. If you can immediately display your return policy in a way that's friendly and approachable, that really facilitates for the customer generating that return.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if we were to boil down kind of our two biggest tips for writing a return policy, and particularly as it pertains to Black Friday, number one, make it easy for the customer. You know, ultimately, sure, financially it might make sense to add a whole bunch of restrictions. You know, you can only return this within exactly 30 days and it has to be shipped back in this kind of box and the tags have to be on it and it has to be folded in this way. And, you know, we can put all these restrictions, these limitations on, but ultimately the more of those that we add, the harder it makes for customers to make those returns. And so, you know, if it's difficult for them to make a return, they won't do it, you know, and if they can't take advantage of their returns policy, it may as well not even be there for them. You know, and as we talk about giving a great customer experience, if they have a tough time with that, that's a negative customer experience. And so they might have made the one purchase that they are now not going to return, but they might not come back and make future purchases because they know that if they have an issue, you know, they're going to have a rough time taking care of it.
And it's so important to have retained customers. It's so much harder to generate new customers. Retaining a customer that they'll come back and buy and buy and buy is a huge element of e-commerce in general. You know, you're always competing against hundreds of other online stores. If you can provide a service to a customer the first time that keeps them coming back, immediately you obviously have, you know, recurring income from that customer if they're a repeat customer. If they have you have a great product and they have a great customer experience, you in some ways get free advertising, right? Word of mouth. That's a huge point of free advertising. So it helps you in that way. And also, you know, as the age of social media, if they're sharing kind of what the experience they have. Now, not always is that going to be the case, but if it does, it's a huge benefit to your store. Now, one of the things that's really important about Black Friday as it relates to a return policy is the amount of traffic that you have, right? So over the Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend, you're going to have a huge uptick in your client base and in your traffic on your website. So the following week to 2 weeks becomes really important as it relates to your return policy, because now you're having to deal and you have an opportunity to improve and generate lasting customer relationships as a result of those sales that you generated through Black Friday.
Yeah, definitely. So making it easy for customers to do those returns, super important. I think the second piece of advice I would have, you know, before we move on here is that you can have a super easy returns policy. That's really important. But as you mentioned, write it in very clear language that customers understand. So again, we want the return policy to be easy for customers, but also accessible to them. So if they load onto the return policy page and they see a big, you know, wall of text written in lawyerese and they have a rough time understanding it, again, that kind of diminishes the trust they have in you. They think you're trying to lawyer your way out of being able to accept returns. A really good returns policy is iFixit. I don't know if you've heard of them. They do. They sell electronic parts and they do a whole bunch of guides online for fixing your own electronics. They call their returns policy the Pirate's Code, and the essence of it is basically, you know, you have 30 days to return it. But if it's longer than that, then let us know and we'll see what we can do to make it right. And that, as a customer, inspires me and, you know, kind of lets me know that they're not just going to hide behind policy if I have a problem. They're really going to try and take care of me and make sure that I'm at the forefront of their mind and that my satisfaction, like the solution to my problem is what I'm getting out of making a purchase with them. So make it really easy to use, make it really accessible for customers, and I think those are the two biggest tips we can give.
Well, and that's an interesting concept too, just because if you get past that point where you've missed the dates of your return policy, it encourages an engagement, it encourages a conversation. So it gives you an opportunity to also establish a relationship, a more personal relationship with your customers by having that opportunity, right? Reach out to us, let us know why. We'll be happy to talk to you about the scenario and see if we need to make any exceptions. And that is part and parcel with your return policy, right? It's not necessarily dealing strictly with a machine if you're doing it online, where it's being submitted online, you're sending an email. There might be a phone call or something that you can get on the phone with this person, ask what it is, get a picture to say, this is what happened with my product.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. We'll get that worked out for you. Just send it back, and it gives you an opportunity to give a personal touch to something they might not also have visiting an online store.
For sure. So again, this is Bold Black Friday University. I'm here with Graham Matheson, and I'm Aubrey Katelko. We're talking about returns policies on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, how they can be one of your biggest tools, I think, to kind of generate sales, but also super loyal customers. So we've talked a lot about how framing a returns policy and how to write one and kind of some elements to include in that returns policy. Now we're going to go through a demo of our Returns Manager app. Now, returns are a lot more challenging logistically than I think you expect. I might just be able to deal with one person over email, and they email me back and they say, hey, can I return this? And I say, sure. And, they send it back to me, and I maybe credit them through PayPal. But if we're doing that at scale, if I'm getting 5 or 10 orders a day, for example, or even a week, and 1 or 2 of those customers is returning a week, and it takes maybe 2 or 3 weeks for their packages to get back to me, that starts to get very, very cumbersome. And there's a lot of kind of moving pieces there. There are products that are being shipped back in transit. There are products that maybe customers, want to send me a picture to make sure that it's actually, that they either received the right product or that it didn't just get damaged in shipping. There are products that might have made it back to me, but they're sitting on a shelf somewhere, and I have to either put them back in my inventory or I have to dispose of them or send them back to the manufacturer. So there's a whole bunch of different kind of logistical challenges that go into this, and our Returns Manager app is really good at kind of keeping all of those in control and helping you see at a glance where all your returns are. So we're going to switch screens right here, and we'll kind of go through. I'll just make sure that switches. So we'll show you how this works on a Shopify store and go through it from there. So for starters, if I'm using Returns Manager, you can see I'm here on the Home Depot. If I go to the returns page as a customer, the first thing I see is this returns widget. Now, I'll type in my order number here. And could you grab the email address for order 1054?
I can.
Beauty. So the customer sees this order lookup page, and what they'll do is they'll enter in their order number and their customer email address. And so once they've entered that in, and I'll show you in a moment here, they'll see a page that shows them all the details of that order. So when it was shipped, when it was ordered, what address they had it sent to, what products were in the order, and then they can manage returns of those products on a line item basis. So they can, they can choose to start a return for a product. They can see where in the process things are going, and kind of the status of any of their open issues. So I'll just show you what this looks like here. So you can see I've entered the order number and a customer email address. And I have Joe Everydude here, who made a purchase on the 24th of October, 2017. You can see all the products I ordered, which items I ordered, and if I want, I can actually create a return for this Supremo hammer. So I'll kind of show you what that looks like here, and then we'll go into the back end of the app, and I'll show you what it looks like on your Shopify admin as a merchant. So again, this is as a customer. If I press create a return here, I get this nice little window. I can choose what type of a return. Maybe I'm returning for a credit or a refund, or I just want a replacement. I enter in how many products I'm actually returning, and then the reason. So these reasons are completely customizable, and so merchants can choose, maybe you only want to accept returns for damaged products or for products that aren't as described or a wrong size or a wrong color. You can add all of this in to Returns Manager, and it will show it to customers. And it really helps customers to categorize their returns properly, and then it helps you logistically on the back end as well.
Right, and it also has a little feature on the back end that helps you determine who's actually going to pay for the shipping. So when you're setting up your returns reasons, you can kind of decipher whether or not, if it's a damaged product that arrived damaged, I'm going to be paying for that. But if the customer simply wants an exchange based on the fact that they thought the product was going to be slightly different, so they ordered the wrong product, then you can make the customer pay for that. So if you have any of those scenarios where you do have a mix and match between who will be paying for the shipping, you can assign those to those return reasons. And another great thing about return reasons, if you do take the time to create a fair number, make sure that they're fairly accurate, because it will help you in your analytics phase, right? If you're going to review why things keep getting returned, that gives you a great opportunity to figure that out, as long as your return reasons are descriptive and they're accurate.
For sure. So now that I've finished my kind of return form for this hammer, I'll submit it. Again, this is as a customer, you can see it's submitted, and the status here is set to return submitted. So what I'll do is I'll show you what this looks like on the back end here. And this is what you would actually see as a merchant. And I don't have LastPass on this computer.
So there's our admin would probably be a good place to go. Let's see. No? Okay. One moment.
Perfect. So I'll show you some other aspects of the return policy here. So we have it on the returns page. Customers can email or enter in their email address and their order number. This page is totally customizable by you as well. So it's blue and red here, but you can obviously customize it to be your brand. What a lot of stores do as well is they put kind of information for their return on this page. So if customers are responsible for shipping the products back themselves, or even if they're just responsible for keeping them and throwing them in the trash, and then you'll ship them a new one. What you can do is you can put all that information on this returns page, and it will populate there for the customer, and they can read it and really understand what they're doing.
LastPass has failed me over on this side of the building. Let's just take a guess. No.
So we'll just...
Oh, there we go. Slowly but surely. We're tying up all the internet with all the streaming going on here. It's slowing things down, so.
Sorry guys, our network seems to be having some issues here.
Yeah, I can't load anything at this point, so not very helpful at this time. But the one thing to kind of note about the Returns Manager app, I think a little bit on the back end, is that it is fairly basic in what it can do. It's what it does really well is take advantage of some of the tools that you have already available in Shopify, and kind of tries to maximize that. So for instance, if you're creating an exchange, you can just use the draft order functions through Shopify to recreate that order and send it back out to keep track of your new order that you've generated to send that exchange back out to the customer. If you're doing a credit, it gives you an opportunity to use either Shopify's gift card functionality or the discount codes. The app itself isn't going to provide necessarily all these things for you. So if you use an exchange, you can use draft orders. You can credit the customer with either a gift card or a discount code. And the one thing that it does do that it capitalizes on kind of a refund API in Shopify is it will in fact process a refund fully if you're using the refund portal. So it's just there's a couple elements of the app that really facilitate using some of your other options in Shopify to kind of achieve some of the things that you're looking for in your return policy. Obviously, with the app, you can determine which one of these functions has. Are you having a lot of problems over there?
It's having me. I've done 7 captchas in a row now.
Yeah, you can generate details per each one of these available options. So if you have a different time frame that you need to use, as in, the refunds are 60 days, but an exchange is 90 days, or for any reason, what you have there, the app will have an opportunity for you to do so. It would also give you an opportunity to use descriptions to help be more transparent in terms of how you're actually going to execute those exchanges or those replacements. So when you're generating your return groups to choose which products will be available to return, you have a description area that will allow the customer to see some information about how this is going to be processed when you finally get to that point. Once you finally log in after 7 or 8 captchas, then you might be able to use the app at some point. So.
All right, Graham. Well, they said it couldn't be done, but it turns out that I have made it work with my incredible technical prowess here. So I'll show you what this Returns Manager app looks like. We're here on the back end of the Shopify admin of the Home Depot store, and I will just, network being really, really slow today. So I think the first thing we'll show is what the pending returns request screen looks like. So these are returns or requests that customers have sent in. So you can choose in the app whether or not you want to require a return request to be approved by you, or whether you want to auto approve them. And if you're just doing like a customer sends them back and pays for shipping every time, maybe if they order the wrong size, they can return it without any approval from you. You might want to turn on the auto approval. But in some cases, like if the product description was incorrect, and you're getting a lot of returns for that, you might want to turn off the auto approval feature, and so that will let you look at each request and let you either approve or deny it as we go. So you can see a little bit of that on this screen. I submitted return request 1054, so I'm just going to approve that one here, and then we'll go and see what it looks like on the active returns tab. So if I head into here, I will just find that one on the next page. Joe, every dude, been placing a lot of return requests here.
But he's a return customer.
He is a return customer.
He keeps coming back because the return policy is so good.
You know what? If he has a birthday, I'll probably send him a card that says many happy returns.
That was terrible.
That's okay, Graham.
That's a knee slapper.
Thanks, pal. And it appears the page is frozen. So, just going to open a new tab with that now. Load back into the app. There we go. Okay. Sorry, folks. The computers are giving us trouble these days, this hour. Okay, so you can see this is active request for order 1054 from Joe Everydude. This is the request that we just placed using the app. So what I can do here is I can do a whole bunch of different things. I can change the status of that return. I can open it. I can leave notes for the customer. If they submitted an image along with it, I can see that image. Maybe it's an image of the damaged product that they received. I can see the date it was submitted. I can be linked directly to the order in Shopify, so I can see other details about that order. Maybe it was sent out on a day where we know we had bad stock in, and so we had to recall them. Tons of different options here. I can also leave public and internal notes. So in a public note, I'm leaving that as a note for customers to see. So if I wanted to kind of leave a note for them that said, hey, we received this at the warehouse on this date, I could do that there. But as well, I can leave internal notes for my team. So if I need to communicate, for example, that I've passed this over to the shipping department for them to take a look at and verify, then I can do that as well there.
Yeah, and they also have, you can see in the kind of middle column there, there's the statuses. We talked a little bit about that. Between the statuses and the public notes that send notifications to the clients, as long as you set them up that way. That helps with transparency. It alleviates some of the stress of, how is the process of my return going so far, and improved transparency increases your customer relationship. It gives them a little level of satisfaction and relief in just kind of knowing where their return is in the process at this time.
For sure. So that's the active return screen. Again, this is a bit of a basic screen, but it really allows for a ton of flexibility. So we kind of didn't want to put a whole bunch of restrictions in place as we update the app. We want this to be as flexible as possible so it can meet whatever processes work for you and your team and your business. So I think from there we'll go and we'll take a look at return groups. So return groups are where we set up in the app which products can be returned and the length of time for which they can be returned. So, for example, as it says at the top here, if I had T-shirts, for example, and I wanted to offer a 30-day return policy on T-shirts, but I also sell swimwear, for example, and I don't want swimwear to be returnable, what I would do is I would just select only my T-shirts in my T-shirt return group, and so that would allow the T-shirts to be returned. But if a customer goes and tries to return some swimwear and it's not included in the group, the app will stop them and it will let them know, no, sorry, you can't return this. Either you're outside of the time frame for returning it, maybe they try to go back 3 months later and return something, or the product that you're trying to return isn't eligible. So you can't return swimwear for obvious hygienic reasons. So the app will prevent that kind of stuff. So you can create return groups, you can select whole collections of products, you can select specific products, maybe just one product that needs a specific return rule, because it's a super popular or a final sale item on your store even. Tons of different options here. Again, we made it really, really flexible for you to use.
Yeah, and the great part about the return groups is you can mix and match based on what you actually want to offer for those products. So if you have one that you obviously want to offer a refund for, if something is damaged, you can choose that return group to only be a refund. But if you're not going to offer the credit or the replacement options, you simply can just bypass that. And then when they go to process their return through the widget itself on the front end of the store, they'll be limited to only the options that you've provided.
For sure. So that's the app in a nutshell. I mean, we've shown you how it works from a customer's point of view, and again, it's couldn't be easier for them to use. They just enter in their order number and the email address they use to make the order, and then they can see all the products that were on that particular order and whether or not they're returnable. And then as a store owner, you get a ton of great tools here. You can see pending requests, active returns. You can see analytics. So for example, this will show you the value of all the products that have been approved, products that have been returned for various reasons, products that are pending and still waiting. You can see this by a specific date range, ton of different options for you to be able to analyze your returns. I think the last option that I want to show is the create a return feature, which is super cool. So as we mentioned earlier, iFixit, their return policy, they say it's like the pirate's code. It's a code they live by, but sometimes when times are tough and when a situation really needs it, they need to go beyond their policy because it's not something they've thought of before. And so that's kind of what the create a return screen does for you, is that if a customer emails in and they say, listen, I received this product and then I went on vacation for 2 weeks and the return window is gone. I just opened the package, I've been super busy, and it turns out it's not the right size, but it's past my 35-day period. It's past my 35-day return period. Is there anything you can do to help me out? The merchant can go in and create a return manually for them that overrides all the rules that you have set up. And so this is, again, really good for customer recovery purposes, for kind of customer service things where you need to go above and beyond for a specific customer. Lets you create those returns manually, and then they can continue to manage that return after through that customer portal. So I think that's all we have to show for the Returns Manager app. We're going on about 40 minutes here, so I think I'll do a last call for questions, and then we will call it good for today. So we'll just flip back to us here. Perfect. So that is our Black Friday University session on return policies. So again, super important. to have a really solid return policy, particularly for Black Friday. You've got to remember that customers, when they're shopping on Black Friday, are looking for the best deals, but if prices start to match or look very similar, they start to look at other things when they're making their decision to actually make a purchase. So this is things like, how quickly is it going to get to me? How expensive is the shipping? One of the biggest things is the return policy. If I buy this and it turns out it's not actually what I wanted, or it's the wrong size, or it gets damaged somehow, am I going to actually be able to send it back to the store and have them take care of me? Super important customer service and sales tool, and again, really gives customers confidence that they're making the right decision.
Yeah, and specifically in Black Friday, some of the nice things about shopping online over Black Friday is that you have a little bit more time. There's less of a sense of urgency. Like, there's some of the chaos that happens in brick and mortar stores. Yeah. It's just insane. But with the online, you have an opportunity, like Aubrey said, if prices start to match, you have an opportunity to display those things, those elements, such as a return policy, that can help you generate the sale over your competitor and that kind of thing. So there's always elements like that you can really take advantage of, specifically with the uptake in traffic that you have over Black Friday. And these things can help generate long-term customers, not just the ones looking for the sales this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. These are long-term customers that are really beneficial. I mean, Black Friday is really great for kind of one-time sales, but we also want those customers to come back, and we want them to know that when they've made a purchase for your brand, you've gotten them on your email list. They probably made a bigger purchase than usual because it's a Black Friday sale. We still want them to come back throughout the year, and returns policies really help to improve customer loyalty and kind of help to retain them. I think some of the other important things we talked about, making return policies easy to understand for customers, and then also flexible and accessible. So they need to be written in language that customers understand, and they need to be flexible enough that your team feels empowered to be able to make changes or exceptions to them where necessary. So, if the return policy is 30 days and I email you at day 31, they say, hey guys, listen, I'm really not a fan of this. Is there any way you can take it back? Personally, I would be way more satisfied with the company that said, yeah, that's no problem, we'll take care of it for you, than the one that said, nope, sorry, 30 days have passed, we told you 30 and it's past 30, so there's nothing we can do. We also talked about our Returns Manager app. So Returns Manager, super powerful app for helping manage your the logistics of returns. It can get very complicated when you start to get a ton of returns in, which might happen after Black Friday. If you're seeing increased sales, if you only get 5% of people who return your products, that's still 5% of an increased number, right? So, you're going to want an easy way to manage that.
Yeah, and the one thing that we didn't necessarily talk about, but can be a huge help over the course of time with the Returns Manager app, is it does have a UPS integration. So if you do have returns that you want to generate shipping labels directly for the customer to print off, so that you as the store owner can make sure that you're covering the cost of shipping to send that product back to you. It has that integration with UPS in the app. So there's a lot of different elements of the app itself that can really help, as it says on the title, manage your returns.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's all we have. Seeing no questions for today, I think we'll call it there. Our next Black Friday University session is this Thursday. I believe that's the 9th. Yeah, the 9th of November. It'll be at 1 p.m. again, and we're going to be talking with our friends at Vantage about social media advertising and consumer behavior over the holidays. So social media is a super common request for a topic from everybody who signed up for Black Friday University. We get it probably more than any other topic suggestion, for sure. It's a big world out there. There's a ton of stuff you can do on social, particularly as we're leading up to Black Friday. Getting a strategy in place and being able to really effectively execute on a good social media acquisition strategy, really important for any e-commerce business. So be sure to tune into that. Sent out an email this morning, which you should have received, which will have a registration link, but we'll put it in the chat as well. Anything else to add there, Big G?
No. If you have questions about the app itself or even just general return policies, we'd love to help you out. You can always reach out to us at support@boldcommerce.com. That's where you'll find people like myself. So definitely, as we get closer, it's always best to stay on top of these things. So the earlier, the better. We'd love to help you out.
Well, it's been fun, Graham. Thank you very much. Keep tuning in to Bold Black Friday University. Again, we are 17 days away from the big day, so now is the time to get ready. Now is the time to get prepared. Now is the time to start thinking about everything else that is going to go into running a successful Black Friday promotion, so you can really maximize how much you're getting out of it this year. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys Thursday.